I am Jadon Se, Golden Dragon of the Third Arc of Consciousness, and this is a message from the Dragon. Today's message, Dragon Healing, Part 1. Dear ones, a golden dragon looks upon a human being in your 3, 4, and even 5D states. Your body, your form, your appearance is magnificent. Miraculous, you might say. Your beingness has so many different levels and layers, many of which you are simply unaware of in your current state of consciousness. This beingness of yours is highly creative, highly expressive, and highly dynamic. What you see in the 3D or the 4D and in parts of the 5D human form is simply just an outward expression of what lies within, we will just say, a grand beingness. I will try not to be too mysterious here, but what you need to know is that you are far more than you are aware. Your body is not just a meat suit. Your body is a living divine expression of your spirit. Dear ones, when you come to this place, you must operate under the rules that are prevailing here. Just as if you decided to dive around a coral reef, you might take up a snorkel, perhaps some flippers, or if you really wanted to dive deeply and spend more time down there, you would learn to scuba dive with an oxygen tank and more equipment, etc. Your body here in this realm that you currently inhabit is well equipped for your experience here. But we shall say, your body is not simply equipment. It is a dynamic, adjusting, constantly expanding, evolving, and creating beingness. You are a physical presence in this place. First and foremost, you are a spiritual presence. What do I mean by spiritual? Dear ones, many of your esoteric traditions try to peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak, and say, oh, we have a physical body. Oh, we have this astral or etheric body. Oh, we have a causal body. Oh, we have spirit, a soul. It is not quite that simple, dear ones. You have so many more layers than that, and that's only giving you a small taste. Indeed, you cannot separate each layer like this. This is like your science, trying to dissect things by cutting them apart and looking at them individually. This is not helpful, dear ones, because you are a whole beingness. You are the sum total of many different aspects. And they all work together and interact together, and you cannot just take one without the rest. So, dear ones, when you have, or a friend of yours, or loved one, or someone you know, has some sort of, we will call it illness, dis-ease, which is simply not being at ease, not being in grace, not being in balance. When someone is afflicted, we might say, from a certain viewpoint, with this sort of dis-ease, we very often just try to focus on external symptoms, external presentation of these lacks of ease. This is natural, this is normal. There is no problem with your medical science. They do what they can at that level. And Dear ones, you should not take this as any sort of advice that you should easily brush aside your medical professionals. They are trying to help in most cases, as long as they are not throwing pharmaceuticals at you that are unnecessary, which unfortunately is widespread in your medical community. If we set this aside and we just assume that your doctors, your nurses, your physician's assistants, physical therapists, want you to heal. If we just assume this, if we just start there, it is important for you to know that they are mostly trained to look at the physical mechanisms of your body. They might go a little beyond that and start looking at chemistry. They might go a little beyond that and try to understand energetic systems within the body, such as nervous system issues, hormones, lymphatic systems, etc. And this is all beautiful. However, dear ones, it is very much like looking at a surface wound and slapping a band-aid on things. This is not to degrade your healers that you have. They are beautiful beings trying to help. What this dragon is saying is that they are just looking at the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Now you do have energy healers, spiritual healers, and even spiritual masters who are very adept at looking much deeper. And they are also being beautiful, loving beings who wish to restore balance, restore ease. And so they go maybe sometimes several levels deeper than just the physical to find the root causes, so to speak, of this dis-ease. Dear ones, this dragon is here to tell you that only the most advanced spiritual masters truly understand what is at play when we talk about health, when we talk about grace and wellness and ease, when we talk about dis-ease, disharmony, imbalance. This golden dragon sees swirling energies. I, from where I stand, if you would even call it standing, can see energies that have created your experience. Energies that are, yes, directed energies. Directed by whom? Directed by what we will just call your higher self. There is no higher and lower. It is more of a full self, let us call it. A fullness of self. The fullness of yourself knows exactly what is happening in every circumstance. Dear ones, disease does not just happen to you. Accidents do not even just happen to you. It may be hard to understand this. It may be frustrating for someone who has been in an accident to think, well, I didn't call this in. I don't want this. This is a terrible experience. Dear ones, at some level of your beingness, these events, these situations, the state of your current physical beingness has been orchestrated by a greater fullness of yourself for some purpose. This is step one of healing, is instead of fighting the dis-ease, resisting, struggling against, railing against the pain, the discomfort, the imbalances, instead of being in full rebellion against these, an acceptance is needed. This is happening. I am experiencing this. There is some deeper reason that I am not aware of at this level of my consciousness, but I am trusting that there is a purpose here. This accident may serve some deeper purpose. This illness this cancer, this chronic condition is reminding me about something, or trying to teach me something, or balancing some imbalance in my spirit. We do not need to speak of karma when we speak of these things, for karma is a useful system that helps people who are very separated from spirit to at least have a system of justice for their behaviors. We are going far beyond this, dear ones, and we are reintegrating our ideas of who we are to be more unified than that, less separated. We are not speaking of just an ego going around damaging things and having to pay the price. What we are speaking of here is your fullness of being, your greater self, orchestrating an experience for you as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to rebalance some imbalance within your greater self. In almost all cases, dear ones, this goes far beyond the physical. In almost all cases, you charted this experience in some way. Now, this is very difficult to take in for someone who has perhaps lost a limb, or perhaps had some terrible trauma occur to them. It is very difficult to think, why would I ever wish this upon myself? Why would I ever purposefully experience this horrible situation? Let me give you a quick example, dear ones. Look at this 19-year-old boy becoming a man. Look at him. He is experiencing life, playfulness. He is running out into nature, learning how to surf, climbing, backpacking, going to parties, drinking alcohol, maybe even experimenting with drugs. Dear ones, suddenly this young man has an experience where he breaks a bone. We are going to say it was his collarbone. And because he broke his collarbone, there is no easy way to set this bone if it is snapped in half. No easy way other than surgery, which he opted not to do, but to sit for possibly 4 to 6 weeks with very little motion and movement of his upper body, trying to keep his shoulders in a relatively same position while the bone knits, while the ends find each other and start to fuse together. This may seem like a horrible experience, being in pain, laid up in a bed or a couch, or sitting up in a chair watching endless movies, or being on the internet and trying not to use that arm to click or do whatever. This may seem like a horrible inconvenience. It's painful. It is not a good experience. And then, dear ones, after, say, a month of this, this young man begins to move around, gingerly at first, and begins to resume his life slowly. And it is actually 2 to 3 months after the accident that he finally regains the ability to just do things again as he did. All the while, he has not paid much attention to what was missing from his life. What this time out, so to speak, gave him as a gift. His other friends, the ones that were beginning to experiment with drugs, some were getting into trouble, they had that extra 6 months to explore those experiences while he was in his time out. This young man now can see that in those 6 months, some of his friends have gone down the tubes, so to speak. Their lives are no longer functioning very well. They're not on a very positive trajectory, let's say. One of them in particular is now quite obviously becoming a drug addict. Dear ones, It isn't until you look backwards sometimes that you realize the gift in an otherwise horrible experience. This young man now can see clearly that if he did not break his collarbone at that time, he may have been with his other friends doing these things. He himself may have ended up addicted to a drug. This is but one example, dear ones. Sometimes the lessons, the reasons for an accident or a disease, an illness, do not make themselves apparent for many years. Sometimes the reasons are never apparent on this side of the veil. I say the veil because it is just a limited consciousness that we participate in order to be the denser realities. There is what we call the veil, we will call it that because it is familiar. But let us just define it. It is an ignorance of your greater self. It is a sense of separation from spirit, from knowing what is happening behind the scenes, as it were. It is as if there was a curtain, and we just can't see what's going on behind the curtain, what's truly causing all of the things that we are experiencing. It is your greater self. You have chosen to be somewhat ignorant of in this, your third and fourth densities. So, as the veil is lifted for in whichever way it is, that may be because you transitioned back to the other side, or because you ascended beyond the veil. Dear ones, this is where you are heading. You do not die to ascend. You wake up to greater life. When we wish to look at any sort of healing opportunity, step one, and this is part one of a series of messages about healing. Step one is to stop fighting the experience. Sit with it, look at it, feel it, observe it. It may be difficult if there is great pain, and there is a temptation to take painkiller medicine that just numbs you, so that you do not have to face it or experience it. Dear ones, this dragon is telling you, whether or not you take those painkillers, whether or not you try to ease the suffering, experience what you are going through. Do not fight it. Look at it, observe it, feel into it. There is a deeper reason here that I may not know of that this is happening, and probably it is for my greater good, because a dragon told me that things happen for a reason. No, because deep inside, you know things happen for a reason. Your greater self is a beautiful, loving, guiding force that has the most power. This is not an external affliction or a curse, unless for some reason your greater self charted in some past life curse that you need to struggle with or deal with. Do you see where I am going? Even the things that seem to be coming at you from some external separated source are not indeed separated or external. Every experience you are going through in this your life is granted and charted in by your greater self. Just let those words sink in. This will end any and all feeling of victimhood. When you are in victim mode, you have surrendered your power to some other. When you are in victim mode, you are not in a position to do much about it. You certainly are not taking in lessons and getting a greater understanding, or at least the fullness of understanding you could be getting from the experience. So that is step number 1. Accept the reality of the situation and feel into it, dear ones. If you feel into, why am I having this experience? And you drop into your heart, not your calculating mind, but your heart may begin to whisper to you about what is truly happening here. The young man on the couch waiting for his collarbone to heal might drop into his heart and realize, I guess I needed a time out. Or perhaps if this one is a little more spiritually aware, he might even drop further into his heart and say, not only did I need a time out, but I was heading down a wrong path. So, this is part 1 of a series of dragon healing messages. You will come to see that it is not the dragon who is healing you in the end. I am Jadon Se, in love with the fullness of your being, grand beyond your current awareness,